out here in Arizona, the Coyotes are 2-0. There's a lot of excitement surrounding a team that we weren't really sure was going to have a lot of excitement surrounding
This was another thing we talked about in that first podcast.
I know. I said we were perfect.
No, I talked about it. You said they were going to finish last in the NHL.
I'm still not sure they're not going to.
I will take that bet. I will definitely take that bet.
I'm going to leave that alone right now. But, well, don't worry, because the Boston Bruins are 0-3. So
yeah, well, but your follow-up was that they would finish in the bottom 3 in the NHL. I would take that bet, too.
Okay, I'll still take that one.
Okay.
But they're 2-0. They beat the Kings, beat the Penguins back-to-back nights, one on the road, one at home. Max Domi scores in his NHL debut. Anthony Duclair scores in each of the first couple games. Besides those guys, Tobias Reeder, another young player who's in his second full year with the Coyotes.
Really like Reeder.
Really been really good. Mike Smith has been lights out to start the year. I mean, how have your expectations changed, or have they changed at all for the Coyotes this season, given what we've seen to start, given the way the young players have played, and given the way Mike Smith has begun the year?
So far, they haven't changed for me at all yet. I mean, I didn't expect them to come out of the gate 2-0. It wouldn't have shocked me if they came out 1-1. I know everybody, and look, their schedule's tough. I mean, in October, everybody plays the same teams essentially, but their schedule in October is very difficult. My expectations haven't changed because if you go back to that first podcast, which nobody can do, so I'll repeat myself here a little bit, I just think that you can't assign an amount of additional wins you'll get from each of these, but Mike Smith's going to be better. I don't expect him to be this. I mean, he's been the best goalie in the
NHL if he has like a .971 save percentage throughout the year, I think we have to reevaluate our position of where the Coyotes stand.
Yeah. But he's going to be better this year. The defense is better. It's just constructed better. I mean, it just is. Like, I know they didn't go out and add Duncan Keith, but they added pieces that fit Dave Tippett's system. The defense is better. Dave Tippett's been under 500 one time his entire career. I'm not saying that automatically means he finishes over 500 every year, but he's not going to finish at the bottom of the league again. You get Mikkel Bodker back, you get Martin Hanzal back, and you get these rookies who their skill and speed, the Anthony Duclair, Max Domi, also Jordan Martinook.
Yes.
It's undeniable. And again, there's going to be growing pains with any young team. There's going to be inconsistencies. There's going to be patches of the season where I'm sure they have losing streaks, but they are capable of having winning streaks. And as you just said, they beat LA, who was hungry for a win because they had already lost their first game, and they beat Pittsburgh, who was also hungry for a win because they had lost their first game. I think they're going to be much tougher to play against this year, and I do absolutely see similarities between Calgary last year and even what Florida's doing over in the East.
Well, you know I love Florida.
I know, that's why I was trying to
especially if you listen to the first or second podcast,
or just Jamie talking in his sleep.
I mean, they got up 4-0 on the Flyers the other day, and I think it was Saturday afternoon in like the first 33 seconds of the game or something. Something very Flyers-esque, and I made sure Luke Lipinski knew that to turn on that game and watch the Panthers.
And I did. But I like the Panthers.
And you also hate the Flyers, so it was a really good combination.
That's true. But I like the combination of if you have a young team, put them with Roberto Luongo is a great goalie, so they're in every game. If Mike Smith can play, not like I said, he doesn't have to play the way he's been playing, but just to his highest capabilities, then the Coyotes are going to be in most games, and that's the perfect growing experience for young players.
I think to me the biggest difference I've seen in the first couple games as opposed to what I thought they would look like early in the season is, you mentioned the defensive structure. I think Nick Grossman had a much greater impact than I expected him to have. I mean, his physical presence on the blue line is, you can see Dave Tippett smiles every time he talks about plays Nick Grossman makes. He loves Nick Grossman.
And I don't think he would have made as much of an impact on a different team. The Coyotes specifically needed Nicholas Grossman.
And yeah, they did, and he played with Dave Tippett in Dallas, so there's not as much of a period of time for transition. He kind of knows what's expected of him. He kind of knows what the system is. I thought Klaus Dahlbeck looked very good to start the year. Connor Murphy is much improved over, especially the first half of what he did last season. I've been very impressed with that D-corps as a whole. I've been very impressed with Tobias Reeder really picking up where he left off last year. Jordan Martinook coming into the lineup. I think Martin Hanzal's been kind of flown under the radar because of all the young players.
His skating looks better.
His skating looks better. He looks healthy. I mean, as we found out that his back has been a problem for a while. He finally got a herniated disc fixed this offseason. Looks healthy. Looks physical. He started to lose a little bit of his physical game late last year. Has points in each of the first 2 games. They look good. I'm going to back off the worst team in the league. But I'm not going to back off the bottom. I'm not sure they're going to be able to sustain this for an entire season. For Coyotes fans, I hope they do. Generate some sort of buzz. They're on the fast track to success in the future. There's no doubt. Okay. They're on that fast track. But for this year, I'd still say temper expectations. It's still 2 games. You're going on a 2-game winning streak in December. as well. It's the same concept.
I will give you that. But the way they have won the 2 games, for me, they've done everything that I was hoping to see at some point this season. The fact that they're already doing it, yes, they could absolutely go out against Anaheim on Wednesday and not do any of it. But the fact that they've already done it makes it more likely that they will do it more often this season. And I don't know what the exact point total would be, and it's tough because you're talking about East versus West. The Western Conference is really difficult. The Central's insane, which they don't play in that, but they play those teams a lot. The Pacific is quietly tougher than it was, too. But I really do see something between what Calgary did last year, and Calgary went all the way and won a playoff series, and what Florida was last year with that young team. The Coyotes are going to outwork a lot of teams. That's not something they were doing last year, and that right there to me is worth at least a few wins. And again, like I said, Smith is worth a few wins. The defense is worth a few wins. Just having Tippett's worth a few wins. Injuries, you start to pile those up, and I think that's a team that is going to be tough to play against.
It's certainly going to be tough to play against, and they're going to be more exciting. And I think that's the biggest takeaway if you're a Coyotes fan, that team was tough to watch last year because of all the losing, because of all the players that got shipped off because they were losing. It was a tough team to watch last year. It was tough to get people to come to the building.
The last thing is, too, we're at the point now where with that speed that they didn't have, when the opposing team shoots and either Mike Smith makes a save and clears it up the ice or the shot just goes wide, they can counterattack.
And they have.
Yeah, at the end of last year, they weren't doing it. And so just the simple fact that you can do that keeps other teams honest.
Yeah, the Coyotes are in a much better position now than they were last year. They're in a great position for the future, especially with all the young forward talent coming up. If you followed the Coyotes recently, it's kind of been a switch. They had a lot of defensive talent for a while and very limited forward prospects, and that's completely flipped. Now they have a wealth of forward prospects that are coming up in the system. Number 3 overall pick, Dylan Strome, and to kind of tie that in with the early conversation, as much as Strome has had success in Erie with and without Connor McDavid. I think people kind of forget that. They kind of he's a beneficiary of having McDavid there. Well, he's actually scored more per game in games McDavid has not played in than he has. But if you're the Coyotes, we talked about Eichel a little bit earlier. You watch what he's done earlier this year, and you got to think in the back of your head, we like Dylan Strome, but man, we should have had Jack Eichel. We were the second worst team in the league.
Yeah, I think I had this conversation with somebody yesterday at the practice, and that is not something you should do to yourself as just a sports fan, because everything you just said about the Coyotes absolutely on the right trajectory. Wherever, you and I vary with where we think they're going to finish this year, but either way, they're on the right track, and
Absolutely.
They've got Dylan Strome in their back pocket for next year probably. 5 assists the other night in the game for Erie. But you're right, if they had Jack Eichel right now, it would just be on top of what they already have, because Strome's not playing this year. So you would take this lineup and you would say, and now just throw Jack Eichel in there too. But, that's the way it is. Anytime you're in a lottery with Edmonton, they're going to win every time. And that's because it's just the way the world is, I guess. But the thing you have to take for the Coyotes, and this is something that I've liked from watching them, Max Domi's going to be the first one that gets recognition nationally, and he already is.
And he already is.
He was last year.
That stadium is going to be filled with Max Domi jerseys by Christmas. There's no doubt. He is there. The other part of it is they're looking for a face of the franchise. Yes. Shane Doan's been that face, but he's getting older. He's playing second and third line roles now.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson
is a star, but he's a defenseman. He's European. That for whatever reason, there still is this mentality in the hockey world, in the North American hockey world, that North American players are more marketable than European players. I don't buy that.
Alex Ovechkin, though.
Yeah, but is Alex Ovechkin
normal? No, he's not. He's amazing.
But he is such a sensational player.
I see what you're saying. Like a tiebreaker.
There's still. And you'll see it sometimes on broadcasts when, like, the Mike Milburys of the world will mention, or the Euro trash hockey, or these European players dance around. They don't. You still see that there's still this slight mentality that, we like European players and they do all these fancy things, but they're not as good as the North American players, particularly the Canadian players. Yeah. And I'm throwing shade at particular individuals right now, but
hopefully they get it.
Yeah, hopefully they get it. But so they haven't. So Ekman-Larsson is the talent's there. He's already one of the best players in the league. He's the best player on that team. But Max Domi has been a prospect that's been highly touted for a while. His last name is familiar
it's
in
not
all
just
circles.
His dad played in the league. His dad was very well known.
Yes, very well known.
And a very different player.
A completely different player. As more than a few of Ty Domi's ex-teammates have mentioned.
Yes.
I believe Don Cherry mentioned that Max was better than Ty offensively I think it's 6 years old, is what Don Cherry said. He was at a game where, something pretty funny there. But he's going to be the face of the franchise.
Yeah, and my original point with all that was, yes, he's going to be the guy. And Jaromir Jagr talking about him so highly, and obviously Jaromir Jagr seems to know something about hockey as well. I think he's played.
I think so. He's played a couple years.
Yeah. That's going to help. But when you watch them now, it's not just him. And so from a Coyotes perspective, Domi's line's not out there. It's not like you just go get a soda. Duclair's line's out there. And even Martinook he's a little under the radar, and he's not going to be as flashy as those guys. And again, you still have Dylan Strome and Brendan Perlini coming up, but to me,
probably next year, both those guys.
It would seem that way. So even to your original question, without Jack Eichel, all your questions are about Jack Eichel, by the way. It's nice.
Well, not all of them. I think I talked about Connor McDavid a little bit too.
Yeah, but you tied it back into Eichel.
Of course I did.
It's nice to have more than just one rookie that you can lean on.
Absolutely. Depth in the system is always best. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to bust. Guys are going to, guys you thought were first liners are going to be third liners. It happens. So it's good just to have, like I say, at draft time, it's good to have as many lottery tickets as possible. Although you could have enough lottery balls as possible, and Edmonton would still win. So
yeah, maybe the lottery's not the best.
Maybe the lottery's not, and it's going to get even more convoluted next year.